Good morning, good morning, good morning. I thought I would talk today while I'm waiting for the King's speech to be. Sorry, I'm just going to preen a little bit. Make sure that I like this shirt because it's got my brother's initials on it. There we go. Yeah, well, I'll wait for the King's speech because I think that's going to be. I think that's going to be a game changer today. But I thought I would speak about this gender. I think anyone young enough who's looking around, they can obviously see that there is some type of gender thing going on. I myself have majoritively been led down that pathway due to decades-long issues with my hips, which have been. I'm sorry to go over the same territory, like the same soil again and again and again. But I think it's important. But it's like that exploration into feminine has basically 90% at this stage fixed that problem, and it's revealed to me that some of the things, specifically medically, that we're dealing with quite often, like lower back pain and things like that, these are there is a massive injustice going on where people are being provided medical care or assistance or advice, and there is something different going on. And this is the entire history of medicine. And I suppose the question I'm asking is like, well, if I would be at the stage where I would try, because the pain was that severe, I would try hormones, but it's not. It's like the feminine personality, I suppose, or appearance is right down the bottom of the list of reasons why I would do that. To improve my posture and spinal form, and to allow me to express a form, which means a shape that is functional, and I have enough experience in the physical world to understand what's functional. And this is a problem. It's like, am I allowed to call myself Dr. Shannon Wise if the constraints of my patient base is myself? And I think that's probably the most important question we could possibly ask right now. It's at the core of the vaccine argument. It's at the core of everything. It's at the core of this trans argument, really. Because there is a lot of dart throwing going on. There is a lot of sales going on. There is a lot of sales and marketing. There is a lot of coercion. There is a lot of PR. There's a lot of priming. Priming probably being the most horrific phenomenon that I've witnessed within this medical scene. I was primed from the moment I could breathe and talk, or not even talk, but the moment I could hear anything. I'm guessing a lot of the conversations, when I was sucking down my bottle of formula that I was hearing around me were related to some type of medical condition that doesn't exist. It's quite literally religious persecution. It's like I was raised in the Pharaoh's fucking house, if you want to put it in a religious sense. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, in the eyes of the law, whether here or in the United Kingdom, it's like, after a sufficient amount of time, you know, what are my legal rights as far as medical decisions go on my own body and my own, and in turn my own mind, my own, you know, interaction. You know, there seems to be a profession that has been swept up, and almost and like a service that has been swept up in all of this. And it seems to actually be pharmacists. Like, the idea of a pharmacist was a very, very real profession. And I know this because my father's first wife was a pharmacist. You know, yet again, a strange coincidence to do with how all of these things happened. Like my father was married to a pharmacist. They had a chemist. You know what I mean? This life together, interrupted by my 16-year younger mother. You know, who basically was a pioneering force in pioneering this establishment of this pharmaceutical, you know, enslavement system, as far as I'm concerned. Like, quite literally, that is how I would discuss it right now. That's digging up some bones in the backyard. That's like, and considering this woman also, you know, suffered quite a large horrific accident, you know, I think it's time to start digging up the bones. I think it's time to start telling a story here as best I can to tell this vital piece of West Australian history. Because all things in hindsight, once you apply, you know, all of them together, you go, yeah, that is fishy. It's very fishy. And again, that's one aspect of this particular individual's life. I don't know much more. But maybe I should dig in. In fact, I don't even know her last name, because I guess her last name was Wise, because they were actually married. Them not having children, you know, perfect fertile ground for this type of tomfoolery. But anyway, I'll get all of that personal attachment aside. But it's like, she was a pharmacist. They had a pharmacy. I think they had two pharmacies. You know, one of them quite prominently on Canning Highway in Como. I think maybe a family of pharmacists. I'm not really sure, but pharmacists. When my father, I remember this. When my father would tell me what a pharmacist was, he would say, "Well, they have all the medicines. Obviously, that's the thing. You know, these are from a pharmacy, right? These have been wonderful compared to cigarettes or vapes, you know, but not." They fit in a different category. I suppose the medication that my mum has been trying to shove down my throat for my entire life, I suppose she gets them from a pharmacy. But basically what he said that the pharmacist's job was to make sure that if you had pills, that they weren't going to have negative interactions, you know, almost like a chemist. I think they must have a chemistry degree, I'm guessing, you know, whatever it is, right? There's an actual science to it, you know. You imagine for pharmacists quite literally, you know, pouring things in and stirring up powders and making sure, and it's like, it's pharmacology. The pharmacopoeia is our encyclopedia of you know, pharmaceuticals. See the way that the world used to work, there was compounds. You know, yes, you could brand and distribute particular, you know, concoctions and under brand names and things like that. And then doctors had like a knowledge a working knowledge of pharmaceuticals, but you could, like that, quite often in my father's thing, and again, I'd love to speak to a pharmacist, an elderly pharmacist, to get their opinion. But doctors would quite often prescribe things that were not compatible, and so the pharmacist's job was to say, no, you can't have these together. Your doctor is insane. This is, or if say you had two particular specialist doctors, the pharmacist's job was to make sure it was a vital role. But some particular industry, because we have pharmacies kind of in the picture of our subsidized welfare, public health system. But correct me if I'm wrong, that entire system now, that distribution system, has been captured, I would say, by the doctors. Because this is the prescription, model. It's the paperwork model. A lot of things in socialism, they basically take the world and then they give it to you. They steal the money from you in another way, but they then give you these things, and basically they get you used to going on a paper trail. I'll go here, get the paper to this, get the paper here, get the paper here, get the paper here, And in this flow, this paper flow, where paper, script, you get the radiology, whatever, the paper, that's another distribution of a service. It's all kind of muddy because there's no money changing hands in a lot of cases. This whole PBS benefit scheme. And this is like a big thing. Like we're saying right now, so our politicians are like, even Donald Trump, he's sitting there saying, Americans pay $200 for a Ozempic shot and Australians are getting it for $1. It's like, Australians aren't getting it for $1. There are like bulk purchase agreements that we have. That kind of, the minute that you understand that, as always, the doctor is prescribing wrong and it was the pharmacist's job to correct those false prescriptions, be aware of all possible things that could go wrong, which is a huge job, that seems to be gone in this model. It seems to be gone completely. The other model is like someone reserving the right to have a working, thing like a doctor, to have a work, not paying, not distributing their wares. And this is a thing that is condemned. If you start saying, I'm prescribing myself this, I'm working through this, I'm working through this, I don't need a doctor. Yeah. And think about it. It's one thing to do with medication. I was basically forced into a fucking psychiatric ward because I was doing yoga by a bunch of medically, hypnotically fucking possessed zombies. Still unable to go without their fix of Dr. Eyelashes for more than a 6-month period. This is a gigolo operation. These doctors are gigolos. The women of my generation, of the former generation, have been bombarded with 30, 40 years of medical doctor propaganda. And at this stage, they basically assume that these professionals are Prince Charming and they're being invited to the ball. This seems to be the relationship that is forming. If you're in a absolutely toxic, disgusting fucking substance abuse filled marriage, and your job is killing your soul, you know what I mean? And you've got pain and children driving you insane. Yeah. And all these different things. You constantly turn the news on and it's fucking chaos, right? as a woman, something that I've been trying to explore to understand some potential pitfalls of all of these things, and you get your little moment to sit across from Dr. Dreamy. You start to be able to, you get to have that fantasy, It's, imagine, this is like Grey's Anatomy. I'm like here, he's like treating me. He's treating me here. Dr. whatever is treating, he's going to treat me because I'm unwell. That's absolutely systemic abuse. Like, it is a structural priesthood arrangement, right? And I mean, absolutely, is there an historic connection between particularly the psychiatric industry and sexual abuse, right? And if you understand this little love potion, this little propaganda love potion that's been sprinkled around everywhere, if we've seen and had recognizable, identified, proclaimed abuse cases, well, considering that they're being primed into having this like pseudo love affair with this individual, you could pretty much guarantee that 99% of potential, what should be, if externally viewed, if externally observed, would be declared as absolute abuse. Like, that's an abusive, coercive control relationship. Since age one, sitting there in your little fucking tutu, after ballet practice, sitting there and watching Dr. Dreamy, fix all the women, waiting for your turn to be like, what other profession follows this? No one's doing this. I mean, there's a couple of women that when the plumber rocks up, they're like, might get lucky. The plumber might lift me up on the sink. Like, unfortunately, women are trying to present an argument that they're all nuns. It's like, if we just for a second, imagine we flip it, and there's a movie coming out, I think, with Sacha Baron Cohen. It's like, I can't imagine what I would be like if I was like a man. I'm sitting at home, I'm a man, I can't do anything. I need a plumber to rock up. And that plumber is a woman and rocks up, and is like that. And that's just the plumber. Let alone any other interactions. It's like for men particularly. And the thing is, this doctor thing works with gay men as well. The reason this trans phenomenon is that they've captured more. It's like they're like, well, that is the holy union of this phenomenon. They're addicted to, and this is what people say about plastic surgery. They're addicted to plastic surgery because it's pseudo-masochism. It's erotic pseudo-masochism with now, at this stage, multi-generational establishment of a elite hierarchy of medical professionals that you don't have to pay for. Let's compare that to going to fucking Neverland or whatever it is. Neverland Ranch with sitting on Michael Jackson's lap. Isn't that exactly the same fucking thing? What Michael Jackson, amazing singer and dancer things, but it's really his distribution that differentiates him. And that's a period of time. Yes, he was a particularly large talent, right? But it's really down to distribution. There is I'm guessing if you go to these metropolitan entertainment hubs, New York, LA, Broadway, the West End, it's like there are magnificent talents that have been there for thousands of years, right? Michael Jackson is differentiated by his distribution, something that he did not initiate. He was captured, again, like the King Kong model I mentioned with Elvis, captured and distributed globally. He was then experimented on medically by this priesthood, right? And then that was distributed. Both sides of it. There was no denying that something very strange was going on with Michael Jackson's appearance. And the weirdest thing is now, like, I've seen thousands of manifestations of young people all around the world manifesting this trans thing, right? And it's like, well, that's what Michael Jackson obviously was, and it's exactly the same. But for somehow we haven't had any of the conversations in the middle. And this is because this is a priesthood decision. They're like, they made Michael Jackson, they distributed him around the fucking world, they normalized, to it, or they exposed entire generations, multiple generations, to this like concept of plastic surgery. And there's things like basically Michael Jackson's trajectory is like, young black child, like, and then, very strange looking, white woman at the end. There's some middle ground there. And this is where Michael Jackson's thing was really took off. There's some middle ground there where like they were fucking hitting bang on. They were counting. You can guarantee this medical doctor priesthood, this cohort of surgeons, they were just seeing this. They were like, everyone on fucking earth is going to want these surgeries. Look at him. That was a black man. We turned a black man into a fucking beautiful white woman, goddess. We turned a little abused fucking dancing bear, black slave, into a beautiful white woman for a little bit of time. And then when those experiments started going wrong, right? And every single aspect of Michael Jackson's life was a fucking experiment. It's like. And it basically, what it is, Michael Jackson's life that we all can see now when we talk about it, it's like, that's a snapshot at the previous 10,000 years of history. Because, as I said, the largest factor of Michael Jackson's, that differentiates Michael Jackson, was not necessarily his talent. It was his distribution. He was distributed globally and monolithically. He was idolized. He was created. He was a communion of surgeons, doctors, pharmacists, television broadcasters, editors, media companies, magazines, record labels. Like, you add to it, just keep fucking adding the fucking pyramid underneath their fucking ISIS up the top of Michael Jackson. That's what he was. And the reason these things were done, as always, were to make money. Like, it's like we are now in an environment where we have, we have basically in this country, we have a normalized protocol of feminizing surgeries. Okay. And I don't want to shame anyone or anything like that doing it. Like, this is complicated. It's a complicated thing. But there's no distribution. So there's no idol of mockery, which is what Michael Jackson turned into. You know what I mean? You've got to understand. It's like this creation is unfathomably like odd, and we're only dealing with like out here. Because the argument is like there needs to be a international commission towards the psychological damage done to the world by medical propaganda for the last 40 years. And by medical propaganda, I mean every level. Medical / pharmaceutical, which means / illegal drugs. Broadcasting, broad fucking distribution. Okay, it's quite common. A lot of people don't understand, the grunge movement, all these things. Kurt Cobain was a heroin distribution propaganda. Devastated the world. In alignment, it's on par with the opium wars that we ravaged on China. Okay, so it's like the Michael Jackson, clearly a medical creation, broadcast around the world. And it's like, how do we live? Michael Jackson had access to the best psychiatrists, the best psychologists, doctors, all these things. It's like, but then they left him in a giant toy house playing with children. And it's not like that, quite literally, this is like if I was a zookeeper, if I had back door entrance to the lion cage and I leave my children in there, that's very strange. But this is what the period Michael Jackson grew up in. It's like, it wasn't long before that the racial argument in America was that, and I don't agree with this, that black people were animals. It's like, so Michael Jackson was born black and a man, right? And then he died white as a woman. I've never once heard him described as trans, but that is exactly, he seems to have been a pioneer of transgender affirmation, but has never been given that title, which confuses me, because there is a very large machine promoting transgender affirmation procedures, but they are denying the reality that Michael Jackson was indeed that. It's like, it's quite like they quite literally, the medical industry, and you've got to just call it what it is. It's like, it's eugenics. It's like Michael Jackson was Nazi propaganda at the highest level. Bernaysian, Edward Bernays, Nazi propaganda. You strip it back. Well, the intention was to convince the entire world of black people that they could be made white, and that their rough exterior, their attributes that had been identified by white people as negative, could be softened via these life-changing surgeries and medications and things like that. And to be honest, it's like, there are some aspects that I understand. It's like, I've been trespassed into my family in a way that is completely unacceptable. If I allow my fucking Highlander Scottish, blood to bubble to my extremities, and I find a weapon, that something's going to go bad. Now, the point of our legal system is that, that is to be established as a crime. It is a crime. Like, the hallmark of a crime really is like, have you provoked, understandably a masculine response that will lead to, murder. Have you ever had your car stolen or your phone stolen? Do you want to kill the person? And this is like, my children was stolen by this pharmaceutical medical fucking thing. And then it's like I've somehow had to squeeze all that thing into the most elaborate displays. Do you know what I mean? To counter, and at the same time, it's like they stole my children. I won't use the nicotine. I'll use this because I actually refer to my daughter as Doug. They stole my children, and then initiated a paperwork campaign, to undermine every single aspect of my life, as if they had a manual on how to do it. And they sat there and drank gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons of vodka while they were doing it. And the entire fucking government of Western Australia and Australia just sat there and just ignored every fucking part of it. Now, that makes me think that there is some type of really large fucking elaborate fucking scheme going on. It's literally called the Pharmaceutical Benefit Scheme. I think the NDIS is called the National Disability Scheme. Sometimes when people say National Disability Scheme, insurance scheme or whatever it is, it's like, is that a national scheme to disable Australians? Imagine the outrage. They're like, is that? And they're like, well, yes, we told you. It was written quite clearly. It said National Disability Insurance Scheme. We're disabling Australians to insure ourselves against Australians. Is that it? Is that what's going on? It's like we're told it's Michael Jackson's fucking addiction to that. He wanted all these things, so he's doing this, and that was framed as bad. You know what I mean? The doctors were just slicing him up, and filling him with fucking pills, and then sticking him on stage, which is an incredibly stressful thing to do. And yet we still hold this identity as him. It's like, he was a monster. He was this. He was this. It's like, do we have a campaign against orcas, where we explain away their murder? Michael Jackson didn't murder anyone, as far as I understand. You know what I mean? Perhaps what he did was horrific, but it's like, well, at the stage that he was doing that, he had been basically tortured for a very long time. He was a tortured prisoner, right, in a gilded cage. This is the type of thing, it's like, it's not, and this is like what we've done. Like, imagine I have a rare, it's not hard to find like a rare bird cage from the turn of the century, gilded, beautiful cage with a beautiful bird in there, but it's like stuck in like one square foot, and that was the point. It's like, that's what he was. He was the most recognizable person on the fucking planet. Well, what was he going to do? Like, well, imagine, and he's modified and fucking medicated and all this shit. It's like, who the fuck owned him? And how is this being, again, how much money is this film making? And even like we get, 60 Minutes jumps on board and is like, the film's so hot right now. Let's bring in some other fucking family and say this shit. It's like, what the fuck is that? What chance does any fucking Australian young person have that's been hypnotized into cutting their tits off, right? In some back alley fucking like surgery, right? Basically permanently addicted to to a prescription from a doctor to go and cure all the ailments of the fucking whatever. You know, what chance do they ever have of representing their case of abuse or their case of coercive control or their case of priming or manipulation if Michael Jackson is still being held individually as the problem? You know what I mean? Basically, if I could right now flick my fingers and make the Thriller video come to life and Michael Jackson, in the most ironic display, like comes up as a zombie with a shirt that says, "Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me," according to the pharmaceutical industry. You know what I mean? It's like, who the fuck is allowing this fairy tale fucking world to continue? You know, doctors are not Prince Charming. You know, in a lot of cases, they're hyper ambitious, like intelligent individuals that have been primed themselves by their hyper controlling, projecting fucking parental units to climb to the lofty heights of the medical elite in order to distribute their enlightened knowledge to the masses. You know, like peasants, like throwing breadcrumbs to peasants off their fucking carriages. That's what our system has made. You know, and they're groveling, the peasants are crawling through the mud. Let me in the NDS. Let me in the door. I'll make my Medicare card. Say there's some crumbs. Say there's some hormone treatment and fucking SSRIs. I wonder whether they're ever going to figure out that SSRI, Nazi Heil Hitler fucking salute all the way to the bank. I like this one. It says, each day is a brand new life to a wise person. You know, what's held in that? It means, well, it takes a lot of days to transition into a woman. You know, it takes a lot of days to get plastic surgery and modify all these things and be diagnosed for medical conditions and, you know, falsely identified and sent to fucking ridiculously incompetent chiropractors to cure some spinal misalignment that was forged and concreted into your fucking bones by 12, 14 years of fucking schooling. You know, the same schooling that, you know, prepares you to be a fucking peasant, groveling through the mud to get your little glance at Lord fucking Doctor fucking whoever as their carriage drives through your town, handing out free samples of their new cutting-edge fucking pharmaceutical fucking benefits scheme. Why don't you have a house, young people? Why don't you have access to a house? Well, it's quite simple. The doctors hypnotized the old people and kept them in a perpetual fucking torture, hanging over their own coffin. Oh, you're going to die soon. You're going to die. If it's not for me, you'll be in hideous pain. You'll be in pain and dying, and you'll be filled with fucking cancer and diabetes and mental distress. And bone spurs. Oh, sit there and hang over your fucking coffin, oldies. And our government just fucking pandering to them. You know, complete monopoly. As I said, no local council thing. Why? Because the local council is going to identify a psychopath materializing or, you know, masquerading as some type of doctor. If it works the other way, you know, then they're sent, aren't we lucky we've been sent a little doctor from the federal government or from the state government. Aren't we lucky? Oh, look, everyone, let's have a fucking parade. The doctor is here. The doctor is here. Like, that's the system we built. Trust me, I know, because it's pretty much the same as the old system, except the old system had like a position called a lord, and the lord, occasionally would lord himself over the population, and occasionally he would be an amazingly celebrated figure who would protect the region from psychopathic fucking mutilating murderers. You want to understand the infrastructure that this federal government built, that these state governments built? They built a fucking psychopath fucking superhighway to every fucking region. And they basically made it illegal for you to even utter that under your breath. It's the medical inquisition, and everybody's got something wrong with them. Everybody. There's no way to go. I dare try and go to a doctor and try and get a fucking bill of good health or whatever it is. It's like, how the fuck do you do that? If I was to begin to conceive, coming from my previous industry in glass, I have the same argument. You know what I mean? And quite literally, it's like every Australian house, basically, more or less, is dangerously underglazed. The glass is. I wish if I had the budget, I'd throw something through this incredibly paper thin, non-safety glass here that lets, 2 square meters of cold and hot air in and out like it was fucking Glad wrap. Like this is where we're supposed to swallow grand, windmill fucking experiments to whatever, when I know personally it's like, well, 80% is used to heat water, and we can heat water via solar thermal, which isn't electrical at all. That's one. Two, the rest of the high percentage is used for heating and cooling, and we have large fucking opening, acceptable fucking minimum in the world, the lowest standards of windows in the world. These are the same things. But they're real. They're real, and they're not permanent disabilities to appease a closed loop, absolutely barricaded pharmaceutical system that was stolen from pharmacists. Because if I say I'm very optimistic of my year and a half of experimenting with feminine movement, right? I have absolutely almost no outlet for my masculine fury that I'm manifesting to do with my children being stolen and forced to live with alcoholics, right? So it's like, well, should I just be able to go to a professional pharmacist and say, could I have some estrogen, please? Because I'm guessing the combination of the constant stress, my vasectomy that I was convinced to getting to prop up my 3 children to the highest levels of fucking thing, rather than spread my devil's seed across the fucking world willy-nilly, creating little mini Shannons to infest the fucking universe, whatever fucking bullshit fucking logic this is. You know what I mean? Maybe all of these things have lowered my testosterone, and maybe testosterone is pretty much useless right now, unless your particular flavor of testosterone goes right to the part of your brain that turns you from a productive member of society into a devilishly plotting psychopathic mass murderer, which is what it seems the hierarchy of this doctor oversight medical cult is. They have a particular flair of their testosterone thing that and this is like, we have people, this is Hitler. Was Hitler on testosterone? Yes. Was he amazingly hulky like Arnold Schwarzenegger, someone who came from a very similar Austrian fucking region? No, he wasn't. Where did all the testosterone go? It went into his brain. It hyper developed this psychopathic fucking gland, which streamed his consciousness full of psychopathic fucking disassociation, quite like perhaps maybe the SSRIs that are piped out via this fucking scheme. You know, SS, get it? R-I. You know, SSRI, we're turning you into a little Hitler because it fucking floods your brain with dissociative fucking glory. So you can commit horrific crimes wherever you go and not feel a fucking thing. Just like our man fucking Adolf. Not my man, your man. Adolf in a fucking bottle. Hey, have you got any Adolf biscuits? Have you got any Adolf Bickies? I'm feeling a little bit chemically imbalanced. Pretty insane, isn't it? Isn't it? You know, we have laws against steroids. Why? Because steroids elevate your levels of testosterone until you're going to fucking, you know, put your fist through a fucking paper-thin window or a paper-thin wall. You know, you're going to constantly be aggressively fucking whatever. I'm not doing that. My testosterone, it's you know, whatever. It's not whatever it is. But I'm saying it has nowhere to go. I'm in this thing. You know, you could say it's like what initiated Hitler? It's like, well, he felt dispossessed by the Jews, obviously, and by this other Treaty of Versailles, I believe. You know, he had all right, testosterone. He's been through 2 wars, I think, or 1.5. Right? Oh, I've been through a war. Fucking testosterone. Where's it all going to go? Right? You know, I can feel that gland releasing that fucking psychopathic dissociation fucking, you know, what are they called? Berserker fucking Germanic fucking serum into my, and flooding me with this magic power of dissociation. Nothing can touch me. Look at me. I'm untouchable. That's why we don't legalize the distribution of testosterone. But what we sure as hell do is we normalize the fuck out of it. We normalize the fuck out of it in a way that is, you know, exactly the same as our old mate MJ. You know, who is the most famous Australian celebrity at the moment? Would it be, you know, would it be that drug addict that lives in Byron Bay? No offense. It's like, this is what, Chris Hemsworth, you know, dressed as a god. You know, it's pretty similar. It's pretty similar to Nazi propaganda. You know, even here, what's his name? Hugh Jackman. Hugh I love because Hugh is actually a dancing Broadway darling, you know. And I think he's woken up and smelled the coffee. And he's like, he knows his salvation lives there, and he got paid. So it's like, listen, it's not like they're not Hitler. They're propaganda for the normalization of exogenous. No, yeah, I think it's exogenous. No, exogenous, I think, means you make it yourself. Maybe odd. Anyway, testosterone usage. But this is the problem. It's like, yes, testosterone may give you a really good hyper-masculine figure, but there's nothing to do with that hyper-masculine figure. You know, and it's like even sex. It's like it's not. There are women. You know, that's a whole fucking area as well. It's like, obviously, if I've identified this morning that women are having what do they call it? What do the OnlyFans say? Parasocial. You know, like, are there now millions of women across the world profiting from a parasocial sexual relationship they are forming with masses of voyeurs? Yes, that is what is happening on OnlyFans. That's what OnlyFans is. Okay? Is a significant portion of those OnlyFans girls prescribed with a medication that may dissociate and block their awareness of their activities, blanketing them with dissociative Nazi serum that allows them to do things that they wouldn't have thought of doing in their wildest dreams? I'm guessing so. Why? Because they've grown up through an environment and they have been forced to in a Stockholm syndrome effect, forced into a parasocial sexual relationship with the entire medical industry, which is what explains COVID-19's dancing fucking celebration mask party with giant fucking dancing syringes. Everyone was in this. Like you didn't know if you're a gay, say you're a gay comedian with a talk show in the United States, and you are susceptible to this parasocial sexual, indoctrination priming to the medical industry. You've never had a real reason to kind of think that anything's not going on, and they pay you a big sum of money to promote, a necessary, absolutely vital fucking vaccine. You're going to do it. You're going to do it lovingly. It's not because these people are insane. It's because they've been primed for 30 fucking years into it's like you get any person that follows a particular OnlyFans star, if they rock up in their fucking driveway and say, I'm here for you. Like, what are they going to do? And this is what even worse than that thing. It's like, that's what happens when someone is ill. Oh, I'm ill. I guess I'm a little bit unwell. I better go see the doctor. It's like, if that becomes your only outlet, we have countless examples for that type of, toxic, what do they call it? Codependent, extractive, type of things going on. I know myself. I have recordings of my mother explaining that after she gave birth to my older sister, she was met in her hospital room by a psychiatrist driving a Lamborghini who drove her, left her child there, and drove her to a facility and fed her with fucking apple pie and cake and reassured her that this was normal through every possible manifestation of this effect onto women that you could possibly imagine. Doctor, like postpartum, chaos, foreign sports car. What, Andrew Tate? Is this figure Andrew Tate? No. Long before Andrew Tate. My sister is 50. This was 50 years ago. Facility of caring beds and other women to associate with. It's all right. We're all in here together. We've all abandoned our children and are eating apple pie with Mr. Lamborghini. Ooh, like that's pretty serious shit, isn't it? To be discussing it at 20 to fucking 11 on a Wednesday morning. Do you understand that this is the history of Western Australia? Have you ever been, do you understand this is the history of Western Australia's medical industry? Do you understand this? When you're going to get your tits cut off at Princess Margaret Hospital? You think you would. Or are we being sprayed with fucking, utopian fucking super soaker water pistols? Because it feels like we're being sprayed with utopian fucking super soaker water pistols. And it feels like all the bones buried in the backyard are just sitting there. Like what's the thing with the ticking, the telltale heart. Do-do, do-do, do-do. The telltale heart This is where we are. It's like we're not in fucking Kansas. We're in somewhere that Kansas forgot. This is Western Australia. This is frontier Wild West bullshit fucking la la land. The shit that went on here was fucking ridiculous. And it is a crime to project a utopian fucking pharmaceutical water pistol fight party when that is shallowly buried just behind the fucking thing. It's right there. In fact, you could argue it's not buried any longer because it's being spoken about daily by a person representing himself on behalf of the fucking Houses of Parliament and the entire fucking Crown. This wasn't decreed outwardly. This wasn't some type of colonial top-down declaration. This was experimentation and snake oil sales by fucking psychopathic, fucking wandering, fucking murderous fucking cunts that strayed to the most isolated city in the world to experiment on the fucking pioneering fucking people of this town. Because that's what always happens. It's just that now we've got cameras everywhere, you know? But it's like that. There wasn't cameras everywhere. You know, we've got digital records. We've just watched the entire world have this type of like an ant colony, like have some type of experiment in mass dissociation. And it's time for us to get to work and go through all the data. Remember the data? Oh, remember the evil social media companies that stole all your data? Maybe it's time to put Mark Zuckerberg on your Christmas card list, you know, because that data is going to be used to put fucking horrific fucking criminal fucking sociopaths in jail, if not far worse. It's like basically the world was kept spinning, not always. There has been a period of you know, an elevating period. Let's say it's got to be like 1940, you know, to the peak. I'd say peak would be 2000. It's probably safest to say 2000. That's the whole Matrix thing, right? This here, that was the elevation of simplification, systematization, which is another way to describe it, utilizing mass broadcasting to simplify the world. And when it's simple, you know, and systematized, it means you can have a very small group of people managing the world, you know, like a farm. That unfortunately is what the world was. It wasn't stolen. It was just slowly, like, it just became easier. And it was strange. It seems strange, I think, in hindsight, to be like, why wasn't there more pushback? It's like, well, because it was like a drug. Every argument being discussed about social media right now, it's a drug, it's addictive. What do you think television was? What do you think radio was? You know what I mean? It was a drug. It was a drug connected to a drug distribution system and a medical hierarchy that very, in a very speedy fashion, systematized and simplified an extremely large portion of the world. You know, and look, it's strange if there were families or people concerned. It's like, there could have been. You've got to understand that humans playing up, like human self-destruction, human disruptive behavior and damaging all the, you know, all this stuff, like that was pretty fucking normal. So like, although, you know, in hindsight, horrific, but it's like there could have been an argument really that was that it was a necessary benefit to all. I don't know that it did kind of do its job, but it's like what happens as always is time moved its merrily way on. It moved on, and we have new technologies that expose new things and new considerations on, and this is like the argument of colonization that the young people are talking about. It's like you've got to understand there's about 7 levels of colonization, and the colonization you're speaking about, you heard about on the largest, systematized control system that has ever existed. The entire thing. It's like the answers out of that are not some type of mass decision that colonization is bad. It's like we need to recolonize at the local level. We need to basically destroy this half century of, or it's actually more. It's like century. Let's call it a century. This century of, it is called the century of the self, right? That's how they utilize this propaganda. It's marketing, materialist propaganda. Century of the Self is a brilliant documentary if you want to understand what they did. But it's the answers are difficult, and they require commitment. It's like, well, we do seem to have a young population filled with energy and ready to do things. It's like, it's just, well, in the UK, there's 5,066 local governments. Go get a job there. That's, we're going to do our best to redirect social media controls to there. And hold on to your seats, world, because there's a lot of things that are about to be revealed that are horrific. There's a lot of people that would have been, welcomed by a parade into any town that are you're not going to want them at your fucking dinner table. And that's what happens. It's like, this is, it's not necessarily that needs to, I guess, be forgiveness, because these people currently inhabiting these roles, they have been primed themselves to be ready to receive the levers of control and the praise from the masses by their dedication towards their medical certificate or whatever it is. It's like, well, I can guarantee you that my education is far longer and more extreme than any fucking medical degree out there. So I will take full responsibility. I will refer to myself as Dr. Shannon Wise, and I will, utilize my degree to make my own medical decisions. But I wouldn't dream of doing that on anyone else. And not because I couldn't give anything productive, but just because, that's a big job. You've got to dig through 80 years of propaganda and make sure that you're not distributing propaganda or some type of control mechanism, that you're actually aligned with good, solid medical protocol, adjudicated by a board consisting of a priest, a pharmacist, a psychologist, a physical tradesman, builder of some description, a spattering of society in a local government, and you will stand trial in a tribunal, if you are accused of anything unsatisfactory. You cannot direct your movements in every local region to some type of global monolithic medical board anymore. That is insane. What would Dr. House say? What if there's a chemical spill in the local town and you're prescribing SSRIs like they're fucking Weet-Bix, right? And you completely miss the absolutely horrific medical spill. Well, that seems to be maybe some core, like maybe that's some what's the thing with some, not alibi, what's the legal term? That's motive. Motive is the word. Motive. Is there an incentive motive, for a controlled global Medical Board to receive remuneration to obscure particularly troubling, say, like chemical, societal, environmental, criminal, the list goes on, consequences of industrial and corporate expansion. If you're the CEO of a large chemical company, a large agricultural company, a large, whatever company, sitting in New York, right? Oh, someplace in some other fucking country, in some small town, in Hicksville, apparently some fucking things go on there. It's like, oh, what do we do? Well, we'll rather than go all the way there and solve the problem, repair the pipe or whatever, maybe we can just go next door to the Controlled Global Medical Board and make sure that through their clergy, hierarchical, absolutely goose-stepping fucking Heil Hitlering fucking, association of total fucking control, we make sure that anyone who comes in there with a certain symptomology manifesting from this chemical spill or societal fucking whatever or criminal, criminal trespass is simply directed to the SSRIs at the pharmacists. Wow. Yeah, that's way easier to do, isn't it? That's incentive, if you didn't know. That's a time incentive. It's a money incentive. It's a media incentive because it restricts media. If you apply the same logic that I'm using here to expose this Controlled Global Medical Board, and you assume that there is a Controlled Global Media Board, pretty much the same exact initials and almost the same words, between those two estates, I think that's what they call it, between those two properties, between those two structures, you can pretty much pretend that nothing ever happened anywhere ever, all from the safety of New York City. New York, concrete jungle where crimes are buried for years and years using a Controlled Global Medical Board. The clergy hierarchical structure to obscure poisoning and, that's what I'm seeing. That's what I'm seeing. And it's like this quite literally is the structure of the last 40 years. And how is anyone going to claim that it wasn't? It's like, say I have a jury. Did you watch Grey's Anatomy in your developmental years? Were you coerced into a system of top-down, control via a mandated public health system? Like, did all of these things come, were directed from New York City? Yes. Rockefeller. I'm guessing, like, at this stage, I hope the Rockefeller family is ready to, like, because again, I have to be the devil's advocate here. One, it wasn't them. Two, there is no way in my observation but there is because it's cooperative benefits via a very kind of protracted and expansively obfuscating kind of paradigm. It's like you can't. It's like who has the fiduciary responsibility? And it's like, well, if you're in business and doing deals with someone, it's like, and they pay you to do a service. And this is the thing. This is like, unfortunately, this is what there's not a lot of opportunity to go after criminals here because they're all dead, and the crimes they basically were committing were crimes of empirical expansion, and they've been floated through so many different systems, and then but the problem is now they're being maintained with no hierarchy. There is no Hitler, there is no Goebbels, there is no Himmler. They're gone. They don't exist. They've been dead for fucking 20 years, 20, 30 years. Right? But it's being maintained as they call them. It's like actually a zombie company is a company that's kind of there on the market but not making any money, and it's just sitting there. These are like 28 days later zombie companies, because they're fully functioning. They're actually even expanding. They're still doing the devious work that was mapped out, because it's like it wasn't. See, the problem is it wasn't planned to be a monolithic control system for the world. It was planned, step by step. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. It was like, oh, I can't really deal. If we have to go deal with that chemical spill in that far off distant land right now, that's going to send me bankrupt. It's like, okay, well, what about I phone my friend that's there as the doctor? You know what I mean? It's like that type of thing. But then what happens is that becomes the norm. Everyone gets used to getting their back scratched by this little system. Everybody benefits from the system. Multi-generations go through this structure, with the impaired of the capability to zoom back, and also terrified. If you're an arm or a wing or a leg of this octopus, you're not. There's no incentive for you to go and fucking attack it with a fucking trident. It just doesn't. The world doesn't work like that. It requires a lot of work to undo structures like this, to decompartmentalize them or whatever, to deconstruct them. It's quite literally like I watched a thing the other day about what it would take to deconstruct a skyscraper. It's like, this is way worse than a skyscraper, but not that much worse, which is kind of cool. It's about the same, because a lot of it is like, well, we need a law here. We need to change this motive here. We need to basically, and this is where it does take a lot of work to identify a clear position that is politically sound in very hostile, warlike conditions around the world, to selectively, like Tesla did, put the X in the right spot. And I guess that's what I've done. And the X is in local government. And it's like local government will have to establish tribunals, and it's like they need these medical doctors need to be put through the ringer in each region, and it just cannot be acceptable to have a global controlled medical board overseeing this undisclosed incentive program, this undisclosed, insurance program, which that's what it is. It's insurance. It's like, we won't tell if you don't tell. It's a type of handshake insurance scheme, which basically laid the foundation for the actual medical insurance scheme, which is also just another wing of this same monstrosity. But it's basics. It has hijacked the intellectual property of the family doctor, which was a vital part of our society, the local family doctor. It is hijacked and destroyed the reputation of the local pharmacist, and replaced it with an automated, systematized, and what's most worrying of all, about to be artificially intelligent induced, Frankenstein. And so we've just made its job in the UK at least 5,000 times harder. We really need to start normalizing the fact that concerned and responsible citizens have the potential with these tools to to basically claim doctorship over their own body, and perhaps there needs to be some type of license to practice medicine individually onto yourself. We do this already. It's like if I can go and get a license, I think I already have a license, might not, to drive a fucking Ferrari. Or even worse, I can go and get a license to drive like a 1,000cc sports bike on the road. You know, I can get a license to fly a helicopter. A helicopter is, I mean, it just fucking hell. You know, it shows this thing, and it's like some of the worst. It's not that all doctors are evil. It's that doctors have a job to do now. You know, they have every industry is going to see through this, going to see a renaissance, because it's like, if you're this type of doctor, you know, what are they called? A marionette. If you're a marionette doctor, right, now you're going to get exposed and you're probably going to go to jail. If you're a good doctor, you're probably going to be fine. Same with the pharmacist. If you're a drive-through, you know, Kentucky Fried Chicken pharmacist, you're probably fucked. You're probably out of a job. You know, and it's like the same with those. You can't franchise this shit. You know, it's like, especially, I mean, if quite simply, if it was made public, some of these positions, and said plainly how ridiculous that concept is, to franchise pharmacies. You know what I mean? And I guess, like, we need to right now go and interview elderly pharmacists and basically get that on record, that this is insane. Yeah, these crucial societal identities, identifiable professions, have been hijacked and unionized, socialized, communism through every level of it. United States of America, empirical fucking communism. And it's the same. It's like, you know, I said yesterday that China's number one in China, and, you know, they're on top of a poison scheme. It's like, well, you know, the United States is sitting on top of a machine that covers up crimes and you know, and poisons people and imprisons them in pharmaceutical prisons. And I'm guessing the Chinese Communist Party does the same thing as well. And the thing is, you think, oh, these are large problems, they need to be solved from on top. It's like, no, they're large problems, they need to be solved in local government, in each region, because that's the whole point. It is the particular region that is going to have an interaction with a chemical spill. Perhaps you've got, you know, and again, to kind of to lever in a little bit of breathing room for the medical industry, it's like, you're just as likely to have a psychopathic fucking groundskeeper that's spraying some particular concoction of highly concentrated poison on the playing field that the children are playing on. Ask me how I fucking, you know, ask me what has driven me to that particular example. You know, or in another case that I have example, a Water Corp representative spraying fucking herbicide down in a fucking thing into a protected waterway. It's like, this is just as prevalent. And I think it's like, in order to understand what I'm saying about the doctors, about the nice manicured hands of the doctors, which I am, by the way, so you have to listen to me now. You have to, you know, it's like, all right, if you can't swallow it with the doctor, if that's a pill that's too large to swallow, then imagine that. The alcoholic fucking Water Corp board member that's spraying fucking herbicide and pesticide basically in fucking watercourses, or, you know, spraying termite shit on the fucking handrails of the school, you know. And this is just as common. Just as common. You know, the poisonous food, but it's like it's top to bottom. You know, it's a local government renaissance. It's like then it's all clear. It's like I'm selling, unless I can take control, you know, by a democratic election of my current region. But my children don't want to be there. So it's like, I don't know why I bother. And you've already benefited from a lot of the work I'm doing. So, you know, where's my fucking parade, cunts? That was to the Gin Shy. But basically, I'll move where the local government are allowed to use all the largest, you know, things to protect this. You know what I mean? That you know, and basically you go, they just have. I live, you know, my town that I'm a council member of is an hour away from the metropolitan region, and we do not have a KFC. And I just saw a KFC ad on social media. I'm going to block that for the entire council. You know what I mean? And it basically claims it's like, well, if you want to keep receiving KFC ads, you've got to move outside of the council, or you've got to run for council and then run against that fucking election and have a debate. That's it. So I just saw an ad for an OnlyFans creator in this town. It's like, I don't like that, you know. And that means just like you're not allowed to distribute your OnlyFans there. How would it work any other way? We're trying to build every person up to Michael Jackson, and that's a fucking horror story. It obviously is never. If Michael Jackson had have manifested in a small town, he would be that homegrown underground hero, musician, wonderful, like he'd be a mythological creature just the same. But he never would have been disgraced. He'd probably still be alive playing blues on a rocking chair with his grandchildren and great-grandchildren and things like that. And that's the type of shit. I think I saw that in a movie once. But it's like, that's the point. You know, these medical people, you know, my son yesterday, I offered him a trip on a sailing boat around the Mediterranean for the next year. Literally. And he said, nah, Dad, I want to get braces. You know, as if he's gone through the archives of all my work and realized that I have a particular vendetta against dentists, and basically said the most thing. And I said it last night. I was like, fucking dentists are going to really have to get used to fucking flaming fucking balls of fucking rock flying through their front fucking windows. You know? It's, oh, mate. You're going to have to fucking look smacks your front window if you want to keep doing fucking work in this town. Do you know what I mean? And this is just, it's the same. It's like you got to look smacks. Hey, look smacks your dentist fucking office. Look, it's all fucked. Why don't you look smacks your fucking your Tesla in the fucking car park as well while you're at it? It seems like it's on fire. Because what is that? What is it to burn? When I was 18 years old, I was an unstoppable fucking egotistical fucking narcissistic, not unstoppable fucking, you know, whatever. Love machine. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh, yeah, I'm not good enough, Daddy. Daddy, I'm not good enough because the dentists have selectively, you know, thing. And I've watched my mother be, you know, obsessed with the medical industry and fucking sacrifice her spleen and her spine to these fucking prodding and probing fucking psychotic fucking lunatics. And they've all told me, Daddy, that you're insane because you talk on the internet and no one watches you except the king. You know, it's like, where are we? Where are we? Your teeth are fine, young man. Your teeth are fine. Now hurry up. Make a fucking decision. You know, the dentists of the town I live in, called Western Australia, wait a while, are shaking in their boots. You know, the roller shutter companies are like, I need the roller shutters. There is a man on the internet threatening my fucking dentist. I bought a boat and a beautiful house in Cottesloe. Cottesloe was the best place that I could live. I need to. I do not like. I cannot afford it. If we have a 10% fucking 10% shrinkage of our fucking young people, being propped and prodded by fucking what's his name? What's his fucking name? It's like that. Caligula? Is his name Caligula? No, it's something. Whatever his name is. The young people know. Oh, yes, we will get them to smash their fucking teeth with a fucking thing, and then they will need dentists. Oh, my God. We are so clever. I'm so glad we have our international fucking dentistry conventions so regularly so that we can keep our fucking version of our fucking SS expansion fucking controlled global dentist board going. Oh, dear. What could ever stop us? Not flaming balls of fucking fiery mayhem coming through our dentistry windows. That wouldn't stop us. Want to bet? It stopped every other fucking cunt on fucking in the British Empire for thousands of years. Boom! Straight through your fucking window. Holy shit! Oh my God! Get the little mirror. Get the little mirror. Make sure the molars are fucking still intact and he hasn't got any cavities. Boom! There's a cavity in your front fucking door now, prick. Oh, I love my history. I do love it, and I can't wait to unveil the plans, the carefully 3D non-printed engineering plans to go and explain to every looksmaxer across the country of Australia not how to chisel their jawline by smashing themselves with a fucking thing, but how to engineer, how to gather themselves and their friend group, perhaps their football team, gather themselves, look on Gumtree, buy a weight set that is underutilized by some type of fucking looksmaxing single mother, and turn it into a trebuchet. That's right, a fucking literal catapult designed for the sole purpose of sticking on the back of a $2,000 Ford Courier. Is it a Ford Courier? And hurtling flaming balls of concrete rubble through the front windows of every dentist in the fucking country. Oh my God. Imagine the camaraderie. Imagine the skills, the apprenticeship in engineering, in fabrication, in welding, ingenious, logistical exercise in fucking transporting these trebuchets and then positioning them there, and then negotiations with every dentist. Oh no, don't bad it. No, we don't promise we won't do it again. Oh no, we won't do it again. Fuck you. Shoom, bang. Landlord's phoning me up every 5 minutes. We need a new window. It'll be about 2 weeks to flatten the curve. We're going to get a supply line. Capral's had an unfortunate accident with their supply chain. It's exploded in a fucking blaze of fucking fury. The IRA has apparently exploded every Capral fucking manufacturing and storage facility because a criminal alcoholic fucking degenerate stole 3 Irish fucking children and imprisoned a woman and force-fed her Smirnoff until she almost died. And now every Capral factory is on fire. And every dentist factory has a gigantic hole in it. And luckily, the King of Tasmania has been carefully working to build a responsible, national-based glazing and window fabrication guild. And we are going to put all of this carefully back in order. We can't have holes. The landlord didn't know that the dentists were participating in mass hypnotism and indoctrination and organised criminal, conspiracy. Did they? It's a hard-working Australian family that just bought that shop. They used to sell flowers in it, and now there's a flaming hole in the fucking front window. They were thinking about upgrading the glass anyway, and they were thinking, this dentist has a fishy vibe. Maybe we see what he's doing, and then we replace the window after he leaves. And perhaps, we go back to a bakery or a responsible, privately owned pharmacy or a florist, or a butcher, all the things that are required in that shop that aren't fucking braces, And the reason you would need braces as an 18-year-old is because you've been soft food and you haven't fucking eaten raw meat from the fucking side of a deer that you've just slain in the fucking highlands of Scotland. Right, on the King's land. Yes, I fucking shot it on the King's land. He wrote me a permission slip, prick. And now eat the deer, cunt. Eat the fucking deer meat. I can't believe how fun this is going to be. Imagine every kid's like, oh, God, what are you doing? Oh, I've got to learn about Aboriginal. It's like, how about we all build fucking trebuchet catapults and destroy every dentist fucking factory, which is what they are, in the land, and replace it with a fucking florist and a butcher shop and a baker shop? Would you rather do that? And along the way, we'll all learn the wonderful skills that we need to fucking defend and restore the entirety of this land down under. You know, I will not sit here and allow an entire generation to go unfulfilled. That glorious feeling of successful and victorious war is what it's called. It's called war, and we're going to war this morning. You ready for war? You ready for war? Anyone seen holding a handheld gun is going to be shot dead in the street by our wonderful police and military. Anyone seen distributing necessary infrastructure to redistribute appropriate shop frontages to appropriate industrial, otherwise known as a catapult. Oh, through. Have you got a permit? Have you got a permit? This. Have you got this? That's the permit there. Is it? Yes, you got that? Oh, yeah. Come right through. Go through. There we go. We can't have these illegal occupations just floating around, right? Everybody is all ready. So all you need to do as well is get one of these. This is a Caramel jacket. Anything green with a Union Jack on it will do, or an Australian flag. You can either will do. And you are now beautifully ready to go to war to protect Australia from these evil dentists. I look forward to seeing the progress that we all make. You know what I mean? And if you want to, if you want to have an amazingly, chiseled jawline, then just get some fucking chewies. Get some extra chewing gum, little packet, and just chew on that. Or some jerky, and stop smashing your fucking teeth and preparing yourself to be ritually sacrificed by this foreign dental invasion. Okie doke. What a productive morning. So isn't it fun to all get together with all your chums, with all the men and work and the sweat and the field and the discipline of control, to work to take something underutilized and turn it into a wonderfully beautiful, and you're going to learn so many things. I want to see the videos shared. I want to say, this is our catapult. You know what I mean? Oh, we put the chain here and the thing here, and we did this, because basically those Smith machines that everyone bought, all these pommy gits that pretended they wanted to be Chris Hemsworth, those Smith machines have a controlled lowering capacity down a slide system, right? You can also use it just the old school ones that have, that big chunk of weight that is hoisted and then fallen. That's basically everything you need. And then there's a 2-point leverage system with a rope down to the trebuchet base. And then you can find an old engine block, fill it with petrol, diesel, and set it on fire. And there's so many things you can use as the actual whatever. And as I said, because it's not a firearm, because you can't hold it. That's why guns are so dangerous, because you can hold them in like this. A lot of people expect people to have guns like this for some reason, like that, or like a sidearm or a automatic, and that really sends the wrong message, because it's going to take 10 of you cunts to get it there and load it and do all these things. No one can claim that a really slow, controlled operation for demolishing a hideous industrial provocation onto our country it's not the same as Port Arthur, basically, is what I'm saying. It's the complete opposite of Port Arthur. You know, if that Martin Bryant had have rocked up with a trebuchet, I'd say everyone would have sat down and said, well, I think we should listen to that young blonde-haired kid. You know? Yes, Port Arthur is already in ruins, most probably from some type of catapult trebuchet incident that has been undeclared. But that kid has gone to a lot of trouble to build that device. And he's got that glint of fucking something in his eye. I think we should listen to him. You know what I mean? And that's where we would have been. You know, that is a wonderful place to be because it sends a different message. One person at Bondi Beach sitting on a bridge shooting Jews, terrible. You know, a mass movement of Australian young men engineering beautifully symbolic and functional trebuchets in their garage in order to wheel and hold every dentist in the country hostage, you know, for this fucking indoctrination, bone-smashing fucking concept. Look at that. The scouts can get involved, the cadets, you know, the Air Force can do flybys. We can have a fucking parade. You know, maybe we can have an early royal show. Think of the fucking wonder. And then think of the sweet smell of bouquets of beautifully arranged, you know, flowers in the new window, new everything of that shop. And we shall never speak of the horrific activity that was going on prior. Now, as soon as we sort out the dentists, it's like the psychiatrists are going to know that we're there. It's like anyone else. You know, the local doctors are all up by these local council tribunals that they're going to be forced to do. It's just wonderful. But make sure, please, no playing up, okay? No matter how tempting it would be to smash your fist or a baseball bat into one of these pricks' fucking faces and destroy their teeth, that does us a disservice as a whole group, okay? This needs to be done legally. It needs to be documented, which means two of you pricks with the fucking iPhone that your parents bought you for Christmas need to film and document and record the trial and the negotiations and the accusations, all of it, and absolutely under no circumstances are you to hurt anybody, okay? Unless they try and hurt you, then you can operate in self-defense. Alrighty. It's a good feeling. Unfortunately, it's a good feeling, but it's a far better feeling if you've got all your ducks in a row, if you really know that you've done your due diligence before pulling the trigger on any type of war. Okay? It should be in itself, if possible, if it can be held itself, the war activity as a symbolic representation of our forthrightness and our dedication to our traditional civic responsibilities. And there's many things you can instill into the act of war activities, the better. So we're not killing, we're destroying property of a hideous industry, okay, in an organized fashion. If the global concentrated global dentistry board would like to get in touch with this morning, or if Capril would like to get in touch with me this morning, I'm right here. It's never too late to start making negotiations to protect your assets and to redirect your hideous, current status quo of operations to something that is more reasonable. And again, as soon as my children are delivered, that's a huge thing, isn't it? As soon as the hostages, the hostages arrived in a Mercedes-Benz, taxi cab chauffeur thing. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Oh, they have a little hamper of I'm sorry things. Oh, look. Oh, this is how we do it. See, it's I can coach the individuals in question into their responsibility as hostage takers on how to start to appease the hostage situation. There's lots of levels that everyone can interact in. And but yeah, I'm also cool to just fucking set the whole thing on fire, because I think that will give us, it will be the image that Australia needs. We've had the Mad Max was a mistake. We need a medieval reenactment, symbolic recapture of Australia. You know, we need to destroy this image of Australian red coat, British. So it's not that. It's like it's a bunch of young AFL players across the entire country hurtling, flaming fucking, Datsun motors into dentists' offices. It's, and they've got plenty of time to move. It's like, oh, you better get out of there. We're fucking sending it. It's way different. And all of it will be filmed in high definition, multiple angles, GoPros, fucking, iPhones, everything. It'll just be like all of that. They'll go and share it to all their friends. They'll rap. They'll be like, yeah, put a fucking engine to a fucking dentist house and a fucking dentist, fucking yeah. Like Hilltop Hoods will get involved. That other cunts, whatever they're called, Bliss and Esso, those two mentally retarded fucking nitwits that jump on stage and say that they want to fuck your mum. All that shit, it's all necessary. Everyone's got to get involved. This is Australia. It's time to fight. Come on, boy. Field. Get the fuck out there. One of these troll pricks said that I wouldn't be a good coach, and I think that is fucking insane. I'm the best fucking coach that's ever fucking existed. I'm the Mick fucking Malthouse of Australian warfare, cunts. Now get involved. Get down in it. Get for the ball. Get hungry. Yeah? By the ball, I mean, to do all these things responsibly. Make sure you wear safety gloves and things like that, okay? Safety goggles, yeah. Make sure they've actually got glass in them, not like mine, right? Get down, make sure, the safe area, hang your leads up and do all the things, sweep the floor after you finish so that your auntie or your grandparents don't get pissed off that you've built a fucking catapult, go drive carefully with a catapult on the back of a ute, no fucking fishtails or anything like that, okay? We don't want to send the wrong message. Slow and steady. And if we're all slow and steady, you all get to have your little moment of doing the thing. Because we all know there is not one thing that children love doing more than throwing a fucking beautifully selected stone through a fucking pane of glass. I remember when I got my first fix. There was for some reason a collection of louvers up in this back shed where I lived, and we found them. We were like, oh my god, there is an entire box of louver blade glass in this thing. And it was like we're all just like, guess we know what we're doing this afternoon, eh, boys? Guess we all know what we're doing this afternoon. Yeah, that's right. I got a whole box of louver blades in my back shed, and we're going to throw rocks at them. And we would just you know what I mean? You'd spend 10 minutes because you didn't want to waste it. You got a rock, and you're like, a lot of strutting we did. Strutting, after smashing glass was our version of bone smashing. And it was better. It was better in every way. Bone smashing is a retention propaganda concept to draw you straight into the dentist office, sit in his little chair, and be anaesthetized. Nothing ever goes wrong during anesthesia. Nothing ever. Ask every single house guest of Bill Cosby. Nothing ever goes wrong. I woke up with these braces and all I could taste was fucking arse and cum. You get what I mean? I woke up from getting my new fucking fillings and all I could taste was Indian arse and cum. I think I've been swindled. I think I should gather up my AFL team and send a fucking hurtling fucking. I wish I could RB20, not an RB20. That'd be too much of a thing. But maybe I don't know. I don't know enough engine names. Windsor 350. They're pretty expensive to run at the moment. 308. I don't know. That's I've forgotten the specific numbers of engines, but don't let that fool you. You know what I mean? You're way better off celebrating a glorious, trebuchet successful operation than waking up from anesthesia with braces and smelling curry all on your nose.
Isn't war in 2026 really weird? I can't wait till we get a successful retreat, and then we can, I can maybe even enjoy a beer of some description and just be like, that was fucking weird. And I guess, because one of my heroes, I'll rattle on for a bit longer. One of my heroes was an individual named Lord Horatio Nelson. He's the captain of the Victory in the Battle of Trafalgar. If you don't know, now you do. And when I think about that, I think, oh yeah, he was just courageous, doing this thing, all these whatever. But I never think of him sitting in his thing going like, I can't believe we've built these fucking wooden gigantic monstrosities and we're fucking shooting gigantic balls of iron at each other in the middle of the fucking ocean. Because I think that's what was really going on. But then we have a British expectation to put our best foot forward, and that's comes with the thing. So it's like that. I do think that is a mistake. I think after this period of lunacy, we do need to come back and reflect and say that was crazy. All of that was crazy. We should really figure out how to not resort to either side of this, to mass, indoctrination, mass poisoning, mass, all these things, or mass boys own fight club fucking trebuchet construction whatever club. Like it is fucking crazy, but it's not any different than anything that's ever happened before. Okay, so you should know that when you are building that machine of utter fury, and when you're having the yarns and sharing a beer after a hard afternoon's graft, building your trebuchet, and selecting carefully your engine block or boulder or gathering of knives and forks, whatever it is, you should know that you're in good hands. You're in good company. You're participating in something that we've been participating in for hundreds of years. And yet throughout all of that, maintaining the highest level of civilization. I think it deserves a cheers. If I was a drinking man, I would say cheers to you all. Here's to a successful operation, and God save the king. Thank you.